Hello everybody and welcome to the DIY and decorating workshop. My name is Lou and today we are going to be checking out all things about the sealant gun. So what exactly is this item? Well, they come in many different names. Some people call them mastic guns, some people call them silicone guns, sealant guns, caulking guns, all sorts of skeleton guns, cartridge guns. I think that's probably about it. So all different types of names, but they mean the same thing. So for this demonstration, I'm going to continue to call it a sealant gun. So why do we need a sealant gun? Well, in the DIY shops, I'm sure you've seen on the shelves these funny looking cartridges, and you may have wondered, well, how on earth do I get the stuff out? Well, you use a sealant gun. Basically, these are made so they hold the cartridge nice and firmly, and when you apply what's in your tube, you get a nice controlled, smooth line of whatever you're using. So one thing you might not know about sealant guns is they come in a couple of different sizes. They come in lots of different designs as well, but generally there'll be two different sizes. The smaller gun is for cartridges up to 310 mil, and the larger one is for the cartridges up to 400 mil. So here we have a standard 310 mil, which will fit lovely in the small one, and then we have a 380 mil one that will fit perfectly into this 400 mil sealant gun. So let's just have a quick look at a couple of the different types, the most standard types of sealant guns that you're going to get, or that you would choose for your DIY jobs. So you have these standard ones of two different sizes. So these are just your basic cheap ones that you get in your DIY shop. They're pretty good, but they're not an absolute all-rounder. This one, on the other hand, is more of a complete package, if you like. This one is a sealant gun, but it's called a heavy-duty sealant gun, because what this will do, as opposed to what these would do, any cartridge you put in it, depending on whether the type of material in your tube, some materials that are in tubes, like adhesives, they're very stiff and thick, and using one of these basic cartridge guns can be really difficult, if sometimes not impossible, to grip and get out. But when you've got one of these heavy duty ones, that's exactly what they're for. They're just much better made and much stronger mechanics, and those thicker sealants come out really, really well. And these regular ones, like a caulk, which isn't as thick, comes out just beautifully. So I would recommend, absolutely, if you're going to buy any one of these sealant guns, it's definitely going to be the heavy duty one. That's going to be much more worth your while. It's going to be more expensive, but I think it outweighs all the others. This particular one that holds the smaller the smaller sealant gun that holds the smaller cartridges, yeah, great, but what they don't do is hold the bigger cartridges. But the bigger gun, holds the smaller one as well as the bigger one. So why would you buy that when then whatever substance you want or whatever sealant you want only comes in a big tube? That's no good for you. Useless. Wouldn't even buy it. Just needed to make you aware that there are two different sizes. So always making sure you get the larger one, which accepts cartridges up to 400 mil. So let's have a look at the mechanics of a sealant gun. So this is the heavy duty sealant gun. Like I said, I think this is the one that you should buy. Any heavy duty one will do. This particular one, I believe, is from Screwfix, and I think it was about $16.99. So quite a lot of money, but it is a bit of a beast, and it's going to last you a long time, and it's going to do the whole range of sealants that you use. So let's have a look at the mechanics. It's basically got three major parts to it. You've got this part in the middle here, which continues out to this hook, which is known as the plunger. The hook there is basically for hanging. So you can pull it out and you can hang it on your ledge for when you're not using it. If you're up a ladder, you can hook it onto the ladder to keep it safe, or you can hook it into your clothes, wherever you want. So that's that part. That's why the hook is there. And it's easy to grab as well. So this part here is called the plunger. This lever here is the release lever, which basically releases the plunger. Then here you have the trigger. So to be able to use the sealant gun, you need to get the plunger out of the way as far back as you can go. So you're going to press the release lever, which then releases the catch and means you can pull back the plunger. And when you take your finger off, that is now locked in place. For you to move it again, you either move the trigger, or you can press that release catch again, which then releases the plunger, so you can move it backwards and forwards. So the next thing we're going to want to do is open these cartridges. They have a plastic, they've been made with a plastic mold, so therefore when they're on the shelves, there's no air can get into them. So the only way you can get into these is to cut them with some type of utility knife, Stanley knife, or whatever you have. It has to be a really, really sharp knife. So let's take a closer look. So here is my utility knife. Basically, I've got to cut this part of the nozzle off. So the easiest way to do it and the safest way to do it is that you're going to hold it on the table and cut it off that way. What I don't want you to do is put it near you, hold it like that and bring it towards you, because if that slips, you're really going to give yourself some damage. So we put it on a nice sturdy surface, and we get our knife and we take it to the top part here and we give it a little wiggle. You can saw into it and that just comes off really, really nicely. The next part you want to do is cut the nozzle to the correct size. So you're going to screw that on there like that. There is already a hole there, as you can see, but the best way to use these is to cut them at a 45-degree angle. So that's what we're going to do. Now, the further down you go, the tube, the thicker the bead of sealant that's going to come out. It's better to cut off a smaller piece than go straight down for the big piece and then realise that's too big for what you needed and you end up wasting loads of the material from it. So again, when we're cutting, we're going to lay it on the table and put the knife at a 45-degree angle and just cut that down. Again, what I don't want to see you do is going towards you. You can do it like this, in this angle, and go away from you. But the safest way to do it is get it on the worktop, just push that so it's down at an angle like that, just push down on it, little bit of tension, and off it comes. I made that look way more difficult than it actually is. But there you go. And there's a nice tidy 45-degree angle. And basically what that means is when you apply the sealant, you get a really nice clean bead of whatever you're using. So at the moment, the plunger is all the way down, okay? So to get your tube in, you're going to press the release button, pull the plunger to its furthest point, grab your sealant, place it in. Now this one goes in forwards, okay, because this has got a full circle there. So this one is able to go in forwards. And then basically you pump until you get to the bottom of the cartridge. So I'm just going to show you what's in the bottom of the cartridge there. You just pump that just until you feel the tension and you can't go any more, okay? Not without squeezing it to the fullest. On the other cartridge, it's a slightly different way. This is exactly the same. You press the lever and you pull the plunger out. But this has only got like a semicircle, but so this one goes in backwards, okay? So you push that in and then it just slots in. But don't let go at this point unless you've engaged it, because it's just going to fall out. So just hold that and then use the trigger just to engage it so it can't push it anymore unless you start squeezing out the substance. So what we do now is we continue to squeeze this trigger nice and slowly to start with, because we just want to get that material coming up through the tube and we don't want it all spilling out. So go nice and carefully, and you can just see it coming through. You can just see it slightly transparent coming through the sealant gun. It's there at the moment. So if I just squeeze it, you can just see it, and it's just about to come out. There it is. So when we're squeezing the tube, you can control the speed that it comes out, okay? Its flow rate. So if you gently squeeze like that, it's gently going to come out, lovely and controlled. The harder you press the trigger and the faster you press the trigger, the quicker it's going to come out. Look, there you go, see? So you'll gauge it when you're using it as to how you want it to flow and come out. And I say, if you get one of these heavy duty ones, it's so easy to use. The trigger, there's hardly any resistance at all. So it can come out quite fast. So that's what you want to do. That's what that trigger's for. You can just pull it gently and it will come out slowly. Or you can pull it fast and it will come out fast. Yeah. So when we're using a sealant gun, really more so depending on the type of material that you're using, the type of substance that's in here, when you finish pulling the trigger, because there's so much pressure being used from this plunger, it can continue to come out of the nozzle. And to stop this happening, what you do is to take the pressure off of the tube, is to press the release lever, and it just takes that pressure off and will stop that horrible sticky mess splodging out. Because if you leave that, if you put that down and you haven't released that trigger, it'll continue to slowly seep out. And if you put it on something that you really shouldn't have, you could be in all sorts of trouble. If you put that down on the floor and you was in the carpet and it wasn't quite on your dust sheet or something, and that goes on the carpet, woo, you're going to be in trouble. So when you've finished the tube, the plunger will be all the way down to the end. So it'll just be this little hook sticking out, and you won't be able to push anymore, and you'll know that your cartridge is empty. So the way you empty it is by using this lever to disengage the plunger. That way you can pull the plunger back. Put this upside down because it will fall out. I've gone all cack-handed. Push the plunger, pull that back all the way, and then you can disengage the tube, throw that in the bin and put a new tube in. Cut it, make sure you cut it first before you put it in, and all the steps we've just gone through, pulling the trigger, and you're good to go again. So as you've seen on the market, there are tubes and tubes and tubes of different types of sealants, mastics, silicons, caulks, you name it. But they all need these sealant guns. So basically, as long as you get the right size cartridge for the right size gun, make sure you cut it in the right place and you know the mechanics of how to use the gun by not squeezing too hard and controlling the flow of the sealant, you're not going to go far wrong. It's a great piece of kit. In fact, it's an essential piece of kit for your DIY box. So there you go. There is the Humble sealant gun done.